That evening was supposed to be the most beautiful moment of my life. Our vow renewal, 10 years of love, laughter, and shared dreams. The garden was glowing with soft golden lights. Gentle music played in the background, and the air smelled of fresh roses, her favorite. I stood there in my black suit, hands slightly trembling, waiting for my wife to walk down the aisle again. I remember smiling, thinking how lucky I was to still have her after all these years. We had been through fights, struggles, and tears, but we always found our way back to each other, or at least, that's what I believed. When she appeared, dressed in a stunning white gown, my heart almost stopped. She looked like the same woman I fell in love with 10 years ago, graceful, confident, breathtaking. I thought to myself, this is it, a new beginning for us. Our friends and family gathered around, clapping, smiling, celebrating what they thought was a perfect love story. I didn't know that in just a few minutes, every smile in that garden would fade. I didn't know that the woman I loved more than my own life was about to shatter my heart in front of everyone. But even in that moment, when everything was about to fall apart, I had already prepared a surprise, one she would never forget. I still remember the first time I saw her. It was a rainy afternoon at a small cafe near my office. She walked in, shaking the raindrops from her hair, laughing softly as she ordered her coffee. Something about her, the way she smiled, the confidence in her eyes, caught me completely off guard. I wasn't usually the type to stare, but that day I couldn't look away. When she noticed me watching, she smiled politely, and for a second it felt like the world slowed down. I don't know what pushed me, but I walked up and said something awkward like, "Rainy days look better when you're around." She laughed, not because it was clever, but because it was honest. That was the beginning. We started meeting often after that, sometimes by chance, sometimes on purpose. She told me her name, her dreams, and little by little, her past. She mentioned an ex-boyfriend once, someone she said had broken her heart, but I didn't ask too many questions. I thought her past didn't matter. Only our future did. She was everything I wasn't, outgoing, bold, full of life. I was quiet, careful, and grounded. Somehow we balanced each other. She brought color to my world, and I gave her stability. I fell deeply, hopelessly in love with her. After 2 years of dating, I proposed to her in that same cafe where we first met. She cried, happy tears, or at least I thought so, and said yes. It was the best day of my life. Our families loved her. My friends envied me. I truly believed I had found my forever. Even when she got distant sometimes, or mentioned her ex in passing, I brushed it off. I trusted her completely. If only I knew then what I know now. That some people don't come into your life to love you. They come to teach you how to survive being broken. The first few years of our marriage felt like a dream I never wanted to wake up from. Every morning, I'd wake up beside her and thank God for giving me someone so beautiful, so full of life. We moved into a small apartment at first, then slowly built the life we'd always talked about. A cozy home, 2 cars, and enough love to fill every corner. She loved decorating our home. I'd often come back from work to find her humming softly while rearranging the furniture or lighting candles in the living room. We'd sit together, eat dinner, laugh about silly things, and plan our future. She wanted to travel, start a business, maybe have kids in a few years. I wanted nothing more than to make her happy. But slowly, little things began to change. She became busier. Her phone was always in her hand, and she started locking it, something she never used to do. When I asked why, she laughed and said, "Everyone does that now, don't be silly." Her work trips became more frequent. Late-night meetings, sudden deadlines. Girls' weekends I wasn't invited to. I told myself she was just chasing her career dreams, and I should be proud of her. Still, there were moments that broke my peace. Sometimes she'd stare at her phone and smile, the kind of smile that used to be mine. Other times, I'd wake up at midnight and see her texting someone with a grin she couldn't hide. When I asked who it was, she'd say, "Just a friend from work." I wanted to believe her. I needed to believe her, because admitting the truth, that the woman I loved might be slipping away, was too painful to even imagine. I didn't know it then, But the perfect life I thought we had was already cracking. And soon, everything I built with love was going to collapse like a house of cards. It started with small things, little details most people wouldn't even notice. She began taking her phone everywhere, even into the bathroom. When it rang, she'd step out of the room to answer it. When messages came, she'd smile to herself, type quickly, and turn the screen away from me. At first, I told myself it was nothing. After all, we'd been together for years. She wouldn't betray me, right? But something inside me whispered that something was wrong. One night, as she slept, her phone buzzed on the bedside table. The message preview flashed just long enough for me to see one letter. L. I froze. My heart pounded. I wanted to look deeper, but I didn't. I couldn't. I didn't want to be that kind of husband, the one who snoops and doubts his wife. So I left it alone. Days turned into weeks, and my peace kept slipping away. She started working late, coming home with excuses that sounded rehearsed. Sorry, we had a client dinner. Traffic was bad. My boss needed me to stay longer. Her perfume would linger on her clothes, but sometimes it wasn't the scent I bought her. One weekend, she said she was going on a girls' trip. I smiled and kissed her goodbye, but something in her eyes told me she was lying. So out of desperation, I checked her social media. That's when I found it. A hidden account, a private page under a different name. The photos there told me everything I needed to know. Pictures of her smiling at restaurants, at the beach, holding hands with a man whose face I recognized instantly. Her ex. My world stopped. Every laugh, every "I love you" she'd said over the years suddenly felt like a lie. I sat there staring at my screen, numb, broken, and speechless. But instead of confronting her right away, I did something unexpected. I stayed calm. I knew that one wrong move would only give her another lie to hide behind. So I waited. I smiled. I pretended everything was fine. Because deep down, I had already made a silent promise to myself. When the right moment came, I would show her that I knew everything. And that moment would arrive sooner than she ever imagined. Our 10th wedding anniversary was approaching. 10 years of promises, laughter, and, as I had just discovered, lies. I was broken inside, but I hid it well. On the outside, I was still the same loving husband, smiling, calm, gentle. Inside, I was a storm waiting for the right time to break. One evening, out of nowhere, she brought up the idea of a vow renewal. She said, "It's been 10 years. Let's celebrate our love again." Her words stung like a knife. Celebrate our love? The same love she was sharing with another man? Still, I smiled and said, "That's a beautiful idea." She looked so happy. Her eyes sparkled, her voice full of excitement. I knew exactly what she was doing. Maybe she wanted to convince everyone that our marriage was perfect, or maybe she was trying to cover her guilt. Either way, I agreed. But in my mind, this vow renewal wasn't going to be a celebration. It was going to be her reckoning. Quietly, I hired a private investigator, a professional who could dig deeper and find every hidden truth. Within a week, I received photos and videos, her meeting her ex at restaurants, holding his hand, even kissing him in a car. My chest tightened as I watched, but I didn't cry. I couldn't anymore. I spent the next few weeks planning every detail of the ceremony. The decorations, the music, the guest list, all while pretending everything was perfect. She believed every word, every smile, every lie I told. She thought she was walking into a celebration of love. But I was preparing something much more powerful. The moment her mask would finally fall. And when it did, she would never forget it. The evening of our vow renewal finally arrived. The garden was glowing under strings of golden lights, the air filled with the scent of roses and jasmine. Soft music played in the background as guests arrived, laughing, greeting each other, completely unaware of the storm that was about to break. Everything looked perfect, just the way she wanted. White flowers everywhere, candles floating on the pool, and a big heart-shaped arch at the altar. She had spent days planning the details, not knowing I had added one of my own, a small hidden screen behind the stage, connected to my laptop. When she walked out in her elegant silver gown, all eyes turned to her. She looked radiant, smiling like the happiest woman alive. For a moment, Even I felt my heart ache. How could someone so beautiful be capable of such cruelty? I stood there in my black tuxedo, pretending to be the proud husband. My parents sat in the front row, her family beside them, both sides smiling with love and pride. Cameras flashed as she reached the altar. She took my hand and whispered, "I can't believe we made it this far." I forced a smile. "Neither can I replied softly. The officiant began speaking about love, faith, and second chances. I looked around the garden, at the lights, the guests, the woman who once meant everything to me, and I felt a strange calm inside, the kind that comes before a storm. Then came the moment for our personal vows. She insisted she wanted to go first. She looked at me lovingly, holding my hand as if everything was real. For a brief second, I almost believed her again. I almost forgot the pain, the lies, the betrayal. But that changed the moment she opened her mouth, because the words she spoke next were about to destroy the illusion of our perfect love. In front of everyone we knew, she looked straight into my eyes, smiling sweetly as she began her vows. At first, her words sounded beautiful, everything a husband would want to hear. "You've been my rock, my support, my best friend," she said softly. Everyone smiled. My mother even wiped a tear. But then her tone shifted. "Marriage is strange, isn't it?" she continued, her voice trembling slightly. "Sometimes we wonder what life could have been if we had chosen differently." A faint murmur passed through the crowd. I frowned, unsure where she was going with this. "You've always been good to me," she said, "but there are things I never told you, things I still think about." My heart started to race. The smile on her face was calm, almost proud. "The truth is, when I married you, I wasn't sure. I told myself I'd learn to love you, but deep down, my heart still belonged to someone else." Gasps filled the air. People looked at each other in disbelief. "You were my safe choice," she continued coldly. "My backup plan. The man I knew would never leave me. But my ex, he was my soulmate. And sometimes I still wish I had married him instead." The world went silent. No one moved. I felt the air leave my lungs, like someone had ripped the ground from beneath me. The officiant froze, speechless. My family looked horrified. Her friends turned pale. But she wasn't done. She smiled softly, as if she had just freed herself from a burden. "I just needed to say it," she whispered. "To be honest for once." She thought her confession would make her brave, maybe even powerful. But what she didn't know was that her moment of honesty had just walked her straight into her own downfall. Because now it was my turn to speak, and I had a surprise waiting that would change everything. When she finished speaking, the garden was silent. Even the music had stopped. Every face around us was frozen in disbelief, some in pity, some in anger. But me, I just smiled. I looked at her, still holding her hand gently. "Thank you," I said softly. "That was honest." She blinked, confused. She expected me to shout, to walk away, maybe even cry, but I did none of that. Instead, I turned toward the guests and said, "I'd like to share a little surprise of my own." Her smile faded. A large screen behind us flickered to life. Everyone turned toward it, expecting a slideshow of happy memories. Wedding photos, vacations, sweet moments. That's what she thought, too. But the first image that appeared was a photo of her, sitting at a restaurant, holding hands with a man, her ex. The next photo, the two of them laughing in a car. Then, a short clip of them kissing under dim lights. Gasps and whispers filled the garden. Her face went pale, her lips trembling. "What is this?" she whispered. I didn't answer. I just let the truth play out. Message screenshots appeared next. Her words to him. "He still believes I love him. Poor fool. I'll tell him after the vow renewal. I can't do it yet." Tears streamed down her face. She tried to grab the microphone, but I held it firmly. When the video ended, I looked at the crowd and said calmly, "Ladies and gentlemen, this was supposed to be a night about love and loyalty. I guess we still got both, just not in the way I planned." Then I turned back to her. "You wanted honesty tonight," I said quietly. "Now you have it." I took off my ring, placed it on the table, and added, This was your last performance as my wife. The next stage is called divorce. And with that, I walked away, leaving her standing there, speechless, broken, and surrounded by the wreckage of her own lies. The night ended in chaos. Guests whispered. Some tried to comfort her. Others just stared in shock. I could hear her cry behind me as I walked away, but I didn't turn back, not even once. By the time I reached my car, my hands were shaking, not from anger, but from release. For months, I had carried the weight of betrayal on my shoulders, and now it was gone. She had destroyed herself with her own truth. The next few days were a blur. Social media exploded. The video from the ceremony spread like wildfire. People couldn't believe what happened. Friends called me nonstop. Some offered support. Others just curious to know the full story. I didn't say much. I didn't need to. The truth was already out there. Her family tried to reach me, begging me to forgive her, to keep things private. But forgiveness doesn't fix a shattered heart. I wasn't looking for revenge anymore. I had already gotten it. What I wanted now was peace. I filed for divorce quietly. No drama, no shouting, just signatures and silence. She tried to apologize, sending long messages, crying outside my door, saying she made a mistake. But her mistake wasn't a single moment. It was a choice she made over and over again. Eventually, she moved out, and the house, once filled with laughter and love, finally felt calm again. One night, I sat in the garden where it all happened, under those same golden lights. I realized something. Revenge doesn't heal you, but truth does. I wasn't a fool anymore. I was free. Months passed, and life slowly returned to normal, or maybe a new version of it. The pain didn't disappear overnight, but each sunrise hurt a little less. I started focusing on myself again, my work, my health, my peace. Sometimes people ask me if I regretted exposing her that night. My answer was always the same. No, I didn't do it out of hatred. I did it to end a lie that had gone on for far too long. I realized something powerful. Love without honesty is just an illusion, and marriage without respect is a slow kind of death. She taught me that, painfully but permanently. I learned to forgive, not because she deserved it, but because I deserved peace. I stopped looking back. I stopped wondering, why me? Instead, I started saying, thank you, because losing her wasn't a tragedy. It was freedom. Now, when I see couples promising forever, I don't feel bitter. I just hope they mean it. Because forever isn't about perfect people. It's about two people who choose to stay loyal even when it's hard. As for me, I'm not afraid of love anymore. I just know better now. The past no longer haunts me. It reminds me that sometimes the most painful endings are really just new beginnings in disguise.